Welcome to the channel, everybody. Today, we're diving into a historical hypothetical that'll blow your mind. A full-on, no-holds-barred battle between the legendary samurai and the brutal Spartans. Who would come out on top in this epic showdown? Man, that's a tough one, but that's what we're here to break down. We're gonna unpack all of it. The history, the weapons, the fighting styles. So buckle up, hit that like button, and let's get it on. All right, let's talk samurai. These guys were the real deal, man. Absolute badasses. When you think samurai, you think Japan, right? Feudal Japan, to be exact. We're talking centuries ago, a totally different world, ruled by honor, bushido, and some seriously intense swordsmanship. These warriors were like the embodiment of discipline and lethal precision. They dedicated their lives to mastering the art of war, living by a strict code of honor that valued loyalty, courage, and, you guessed it, absolute badassery in battle. Now, the samurai weren't just some mindless killing machines. They were cultured, man. They wrote poetry, practiced calligraphy, and appreciated the finer things in life. But when it came time to fight, they were like living weapons, forged in the fires of countless battles and ancient traditions. These guys were the elite warriors of their time, serving the daimyo, the feudal lords of Japan. Imagine being a daimyo. You've got these absolute units protecting you, ready to lay down their lives without a second thought. Talk about intense loyalty. And their weapons, man. We gotta talk about those swords. The katana, that curved beauty, forged with techniques passed down through generations. It wasn't just a weapon to them. It was an extension of their soul, man. They treated it with reverence, almost like a sacred object. So yeah, the samurai were a force to be reckoned with, man. So, you want to be a samurai, huh? Well, get ready to kiss your social life goodbye and say hello to a life of intense training and discipline. We're not talking about your average gym membership here, folks. This was the real deal. Samurai training started young, like really young. We're talking about kids as young as 5 years old, beginning their journey to becoming warriors. They'd be put through rigorous physical exercises, learning how to handle weapons, and getting accustomed to the hardships of a warrior's life. And forget about video games and smartphones. These kids were learning swordsmanship, archery, and hand-to-hand combat. They were taught to ride horses, strategize, and command troops. It was like a crash course in badassery, and it was only the beginning. As they got older, the training got even more intense. We're talking hours upon hours of practice, honing their skills to perfection. They'd spar against each other, using wooden swords at first, then graduating to the real deal. And let me tell you, those katanas were no joke. One wrong move and it was game over. But it wasn't just about physical strength and swordsmanship. The samurai were also trained in the art of strategy and tactics. They studied battle formations, learned how to exploit weaknesses, and mastered the art of deception. These guys were like walking, talking war machines, capable of adapting to any situation. So yeah, becoming a samurai was no walk in the park. All right, let's shift gears and talk about the Spartans, the baddest dudes to ever rock a toga. Or maybe not a toga, but you get the picture. These guys were the ultimate fighting force of ancient Greece, known for their insane discipline, brutal training methods, and an almost mythical reputation on the battlefield. We're talking about a society where being a warrior wasn't just a job, it was life. Spartan boys were ripped from their families at the tender age of 7 and thrown headfirst into the agoge, their brutal training system. This wasn't summer camp, folks. This was about forging warriors in a crucible of pain, discipline, and constant testing. Imagine this. You're 7 years old, taken from your mom, and thrown into a system designed to push you to your absolute limit. We're talking physical training that would make a Navy SEAL cry, hand-to-hand combat starting before you even hit puberty, and a constant emphasis on toughness, obedience, and unwavering loyalty to Sparta. And the Spartans weren't just about individual badassery. They were masters of teamwork, fighting as a single, unstoppable unit on the battlefield. Their signature formation, the phalanx, was a thing of beauty and terror. Imagine a wall of shields and spears advancing relentlessly, each Spartan a cog in a perfectly oiled human shredding machine. They valued strategy, cunning, and using their environment to their advantage. They were masters of flanking maneuvers, using their disciplined formations to outmaneuver and crush their enemies. So there you have it, the Spartans, a society built for war, producing some of the most disciplined, fearless, and downright terrifying warriors the ancient world had ever seen. All right, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of Spartan training, the Agoj. This wasn't your average after-school program, folks. This was a brutal 13-year boot camp designed to weed out the weak and forge the remaining few into unstoppable killing machines. We're talking about a system so intense, so demanding, that it makes modern military training look like a walk in the park. These kids were pushed to their absolute physical and mental limits, day in and day out, with only one goal in mind: to make them the ultimate warriors. Their training emphasized physical strength, endurance, and pain tolerance. We're talking about running barefoot over rough terrain, brutal hand-to-hand combat drills, and weapons training that started before most kids even learned their ABCs. They were taught to fight with swords, spears, and shields, becoming masters of these Spartan arsenals. But the Agoge wasn't just about physical toughness. It was about mental fortitude, discipline, and unwavering loyalty to Sparta. The boys were deprived of sleep, food, and comfort, forced to rely on their wits and their brothers in arms to survive. They were taught to suppress their emotions, to embrace pain as a test of their spirit, and to value duty and honor above all else. Individuality was frowned upon. Conformity and obedience to the Spartan state were paramount. One of the most brutal aspects of the Agoge was the Crypteia, a secret period of guerrilla warfare training for the most promising young Spartans. Imagine this: you're 18 years old, armed with nothing but a knife, and sent out into the wilderness with orders to survive and to kill. The Crypteia was designed to instill ruthlessness, cunning, and a complete disregard for human life outside the Spartan system. It was a brutal test, a rite of passage that separated the men from the boys and forged the survivors into cold-blooded warriors. So yeah, Spartan training was no joke. All right, folks, it's time for the main event. We've broken down the samurai and the Spartans, explored their history, their training, their weapons, and their mindset. Now, the question that's been burning in our minds since the beginning: who would win in a head-to-head battle between these legendary warriors? First off, let's acknowledge that this is a purely hypothetical scenario. We're talking about warriors separated by time, geography, and fighting styles. But that's the beauty of these thought experiments, right? It's all about exploring the possibilities, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses, and making an educated guess based on what we know. So, let's break it down. The samurai, masters of the sword with their curved katanas and their lightning-fast reflexes. They were highly skilled individuals trained from childhood in the art of war. They were versatile, capable of fighting both mounted and on foot, and their code of Bushido instilled in them a sense of honor and a willingness to die for their cause. On the other hand, we have the Spartans, the embodiment of discipline and teamwork. Their phalanx formation was a force to be reckoned with, a wall of shields and spears that could blunt even the fiercest attacks. They were physically imposing, trained from a young age to endure pain and hardship, and their belief in the glory of dying in battle made them fearless opponents. In a one-on-one fight, the samurai's superior swordsmanship and agility might give them an edge. The katana, with its curved blade and razor-sharp edge, was a deadly weapon, capable of delivering swift and lethal blows. The samurai's training in kenjutsu, the art of swordsmanship, emphasized precision, speed, and fluidity of movement. They were masters of cutting down opponents in single combat. However, the Spartans were no strangers to close-quarters combat. They were trained in pankration, a brutal martial art that combined boxing, wrestling, and joint locks. They were also armed with short swords called xiphos, which they could use to deadly effect in close combat. Ultimately, the outcome of this hypothetical battle would depend on a number of factors, including the terrain, the number of warriors involved, and the element of surprise. But one thing's for sure, it would be one hell of a fight. Well, folks, there you have it. The samurai versus the Spartans, a clash of titans, a battle for the ages. We've gone deep on these legendary warriors, exploring their history, their training, and their weapons. Who do you think would win in a fight between the samurai and the Spartans? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more epic historical showdowns. We've got plenty more battles to break down, so stay tuned. Until next time, keep those brains curious and those imaginations running wild. And remember, history is full of incredible stories just waiting to be discovered.